Welcome everyone. I am Mr. Goldenbaum, and this is Supremacy 1914. Now, just to recap, this is the first match of the series, and hopefully this is not our last map of the series. Just to quickly go over some basic ground rules, the hero Fiona Maeve Porter is not allowed as part of the tournament. She's banned for round 1 and 2 of the tournament, along with the semifinals and the finals. All of the other heroes are fair game, but I believe that each one of these heroes, once deployed and they're taken out either through AI or through another player, you are no longer able to redeploy the hero despite the counter for the in-game time ticking down to 0 and the hero being available again. Once they're out, they're gone. We will have a total of 15 days, though I say 15, I think it's more of 14, and as soon as the final day tick down here ticks over to day 15, I believe the points recalculate, and the team with the highest amount of points at the end of that 14-day period would be declared the winner and would move on to round 2 of the Supremacy 1914 tournament. Hopefully that's us, but we gotta put in the work. One other quick thing to note, we do have a 2-day player peace period as well as a 24-hour AI peace period. So a lot of our decisions and tactics opening up this match will be different from our 5v5 practice match. Now, bringing up our favorite little tool, let's go ahead and just select the pen, and let's do a bright color. Let's do a bright color for this. So the teams are myself, Cobalt Killer, Affluent, Maniacal Stew, and Archers 070 as part of the ONN Alliance. Going up against Ace, Dimwit Politician, Ivan, I assume, Nice to Be At You, and I believe this is the leader of the alliance, or at least the team here, and then Kaiser. Let's take a look at the front lines. We will have the English Channel between Great Britain and France. We will have the front in the lowlands here between France and Germany, stretching down through Switzerland, and expanding the front into the Alps between Italy and Austria. We will have I believe the Adriatic Sea, because I believe this is the Aegean Sea. So yes, this is the Adriatic Sea, moving in through the Balkans, cutting across Bulgaria and Romania, and reaching the Black Sea. Before we start going into our specific country, let's take a look at the strategic positioning of a lot of these countries and some of our objectives and plans, starting off with the first 24-hour AI period, followed by the next 24-hour period we have for the players. Now, looking at our country here in Spain, you can see that we do have a border with Portugal, and for some reason they also gave Portugal Tunis, which is fine, but that means both Morocco and myself, we will have 6 AI provinces to bolster our production. And in terms of my situation, I will have access to the capital, which will give us a nice boost. Unfortunately, on our end, we don't have as many of these neutral AI nations that are very safe for us to contend with. Turkey will have access to the Greek Isles, as well as the primary Greek territories here in his south. The other team will have a safe Poland to go after, and at the moment you have Austria pulling all of his troops to finish that invasion. You have Germany pulling all of their troops as well, though I would imagine they are going for the neutral they are going for the neutral country of Denmark right on their border, and they would be able to get a capital sack. Austria will be able to get the capital sack, and then both Sweden and Russia will have this really nice country of Finland, though in this game it belongs to Denmark, with a double wood province to further bolster their production. Most of the conflict is going to be taking place here in the lowlands as well as Switzerland, and on the Turkish front you will have Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania. My fear with these neutral areas that we see in the Balkans and we see on the Western front in the lowlands in Switzerland is that these are traps. And even though we can secure these provinces without going to war and be able to hold them for a full day tick, all we're going to get is 35% morale. If you take a capital, yes, maybe some of these other provinces will be higher, maybe closer to 45%. but it leaves both France, Italy, and Turkey exposed to potential counterattacks coming in from Germany with a concentrated force. The same thing goes with Austria and Russia, which will be able to bring in a lot of their forces freed up from these smaller, easier AI conquests where they really don't have anything to worry about. As of right now, that's my biggest fear this match. I think all of these players can perform very well. I just don't think we should be extending ourselves and getting a little greedy when it comes to securing these provinces. All right, let's talk Spain. We talked about some of the neutral provinces we have in Portugal. We'll be able to secure 3 additional food provinces and a material. And as you can see, we are sitting on 3 materials. We have a double wood, a double steel, and another double steel here in the south, which means we're generating around 400 resources an hour, which is really, really good, and it's going to be very valuable for a lot of the fortifications on the front. Unfortunately, we will be running a rather large deficit in energy, as we really only have a coal province, 2 coal provinces, which means we don't have any gas production, nor do we have any oil production, though we do have an ally here in the south in Morocco sitting on 2 double oil provinces, which is 2 out of 3 of all the oil provinces sitting on this map, as well as a double gas. So we will be able to trade for resources, as he does not have many materials sitting in his country. I believe he's got the 2 steels. 3. So he's got 3 steels, and that's it. He does have a little bit of food, so that may get him by, but plenty of energy. Going after the conquest here, he will gain access to a little bit of wood and further oil, but trade is going to be essential between our 2 nations. Yes, the game will be decided by strategic maneuvers and catching your opponents off guard. However, resource management is going to be just as important, especially since if we zoom out here and take a look at some of the double provinces that each country has. Now, we went through the resource composition on our end, and we did touch on Morocco, but if you look at France, they have 2 double grains, they have the double steel. Italy has 2 double energies and a double grain. Meanwhile, Turkey here is the most balanced out of all of our countries, having the double grain, the double steel, and a double coal province. So he's pretty self-sufficient. But the 4 of us are going to have to heavily rely on trade, with France being able to generate a surplus of grain, Italy and Morocco having a surplus of energy, and myself having a surplus of materials. Meanwhile, our opponents have 2 double energies in England, plus the double steel, another set of 2 double energies in Germany, plus the double wood. Austria is a little bit more balanced with 2 double materials and food. Russia having the 2 double food as well as the double oil, which is the only double oil on their side of the game. He does have 1 additional oil province, with Sweden and Germany having additional single provinces as being the only ones that they have available to them outside of, let's say, an Iceland, but that is a little bit far off. And then taking a look at Sweden, you do see 2 materials as well, plus a double fish province here in the west. Not to mention that they do have the neutral Finland that we talked about, which would gain them access to a double wood province. And unlike our first 5v5 practice match that saw Sweden and Russia duking it out, both of these guys are on the same team. They're going to be able to take over this province and gain access to all of these resources and shift a lot of their forces to the south. In terms of double food provinces, you have the 2 in Russia, 1 in Austria, and 1 in Sweden, giving them a total of 4, whereas our team on our side has the 2 sitting in France, the 1 in the Ottoman Empire, and the 1 in Italy. So in terms of food production, we are relatively tied. We will both teams will be able to create barracks and generate some form of cavalry. The problem you have is maybe nations like Morocco and I that do not have a lot of food. It just doesn't make sense to go through an investment of getting a barracks and producing some of these cavalry units, whereas a France and an Italy or Turkey that actually have some local double grain food supplies. Fish isn't as important anymore. It's all about the grain. Fiona is not allowed in this match. they will be able to produce a barracks, and I probably wouldn't recommend doing more than one as they are very costly, and they would be able to furnish a lot of these troops. One, they're at the front line, but two, they actually have food production sufficient enough to sustain some level of cavalry production. Meanwhile, when you look at the distribution of materials and the distribution of energies, and I'm not going to go through each one of these countries again in detail, just breaking out the materials and energy, but we are down on materials and we are up in energy. So when it comes down to the later game, we'll be able to fund a lot of the industrialization in terms of the maintenance and upkeep of railroads, but they're going to have an advantage in materials, not to mention they'll also have access to this double wood. So it's kind of going to be I believe like a 6-4. I have 3, it's probably a 7-5. So it's going to be about a 7-5 materials, meaning that we will have to make a play. My biggest fear is that we commit to these frontline AI nations, leave ourselves overextended, exposed, and a lot of these countries, and in Austria, Germany, reinforcements coming from Russia or Sweden would be able to pounce and create a breakthrough in the lines. A quick little note here, we do have Fiona accidentally spawned in by Turkey. We did contact the game operator, the game moderator, so they are aware of this and they'll be able to take up the Fiona. As you can see here, there is no infantry production being used. There's no deployments. I believe Fiona has an upkeep of additional money, which means if anything, we are at a disadvantage. We are following the rules. There was just an accident. I believe Turkey might get a warning for this, but we should be all set once Fiona is removed. So let's talk strategy. When it comes to our country of Spain, yes, we've got these 4 provinces here that we did discuss as part of our initial invasion. Now, over here, we are sending 1 infantry unit near the front by Reims. Now, why would we be sending a single 1K stack? Maybe it's a little too early. I think I might just send this 1K stack to Paris instead. What I would like to do is bring this 1K unit a bit closer to the front line near the end of the 24-hour peace period to show Germany and the rest of his alliance that I do have a significant amount of forces stationed over here in France in the east to be able to assist him, which would hopefully deter an invasion or strike force coming from Germany or Sweden if they are landing from hitting some of these lowland provinces. That's the 1K stack, but after we finish Portugal, and we want to, the quick invasion plan for Portugal is to have a stack here about 36,000 to attack Logos. The primary strike force with Hank will meet up in Santiago and hit Porto, go down to his Coimbra, and then eventually hit Lisbon. We do have some defensive forces here in case they do hit. We do have a few troops here, a stack of 10,000, that will reinforce the border here. After the fall of Portugal, my sights are set on Great Britain. Now, we see a lot of movement here coming out of Great Britain. We have a whole bunch of infantry units that are moving out into the English Channel. We have more over here going into the east. We have further reinforcements coming to the south. We have 22,000 troops sitting here. We have another stack of 9,000 coming, and we have a stack of 36,000 sitting here in Portsmouth, which to me means this is 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 or 7 provinces worth of the starting 10 infantry units, plus additional reinforcements coming from Birmingham. So, are coming to Birmingham and most likely will arrive in London. So that's about 8 provinces worth of infantry. And if we look at the British Isles in terms of the homeland, we have 6, 7, 8, 9 provinces. So there's 30,000 troops still unaccounted for in Great Britain to the north, plus 30,000 sitting in Ireland. We don't know what Sweden's doing, but I assume they're the ones that are going to take out Finland. And after they do take out Finland, they will be reinforcing either Germany or helping out Austria here in the south. So we'll have roughly 120,000 infantry. What we're going to do is move the primary bulk of our forces, I'd say maybe 60 to 80,000 here in Paris, most likely near the lowlands, to be able to strike or deter any kind of actions taken by Germany, which I guess at that point we don't need the 1,000 stack. We may just take this 1,000 stack and bring them maybe south over here by Italy to keep them guessing in terms of where our primary forces are. Meanwhile, we will be keeping a stack of 40 to 60,000 plus Orhan with his armored car as soon as the mobilization is finished. We do have Orhan to level 4, which means we do get the bonus armored car, and we would be able to bring a lot of those troops to Brest. What I want Great Britain to do is reinforce the east here in Germany. We can always fortify the front line here with France. I can bring in some troops, but if I can bring a stack of 40 to 50,000 off the coast of the British Isles, I can strike, I can find opportunities, I can see where he's exposed. He's got a whole bunch of these 1 stacks, which I assume are just 1 stacks, and we'll be able to either hunt them down, take them out. But if he's taking the 30,000 out of Ireland, that's 3 free provinces we would be able to invade. If he kept the 30,000 there, well, now he's wasted 30,000 troops in Ireland. So long as he doesn't have his primary stack here sitting in Great Britain, we should be able to do some level of damage. He's sending out a few of these 1k infantry stacks, which we will be able to tackle. France is getting some good intel over here between the English Channel moving on to Sweden. So this is all going to give us good intel. But at this stage, everything can change. That's the overall game plan. We are going to be rushing for harbors in our territory along with factories to be able to produce initial cruisers. If we can get some cruisers out onto the field, we will be able to hold Great Britain hostage. We'll be able to pull up right here in this area here where we can hit a ton of provinces very, very quickly. And if Great Britain is building any sorts of infrastructure when it comes to factories and harbors, I assume it would be in Liverpool, which means I would want to hit this province before he's able to build a level 2 factory and potentially stifle his production of submarines, which would present a challenge for us, and maybe that is what Sweden would do at the end of the day as well. But we would be able to build our own counter submarines. We'd be able to deploy the new submarine hero, Otto Hersing. We did get him level 3, so all these nice little boosts. But I think that's going to be the game plan for Britain. It's all going to be dependent on the decisions he makes in terms of reinforcing or not reinforcing. But let's say he doesn't, then we will have a lot of infantry units here in France potentially available for a counterattack against Germany if an opening presents itself. Meanwhile, we will keep about 40,000 or so, like we were talking about, maybe here in Brest, that can quickly reinforce our provinces here in the south. We will have some good scouts, so there will be no soldiers kind of flooding in through Morocco. We have the advantage compared to Great Britain because we can traverse a lot of these territories here very quickly, especially if we start building some railroads here right on the coast, compared to his territory, which has the breakout here between this island and the English Channel with Germany. But this is going to be a challenge. I think the team we are going up against is very experienced. If we look at some of these players, let's take a look at Austria. He has 168 games joined at this point with a good amount of wins. We have, well, let's take a look through some of these other countries. We have Germany. Germany has 143 games played with another hefty amount of wins. We start taking a look at Russia here, and Russia also has 138 games played, and Sweden has again 121 games played with a good amount of wins. So all 4 of these players are experienced, but when you look at Ace here, and hey Ace, I'm not knocking on you at all, but when I look at Ace's profile, he's got 30 games played, so he has less than a quarter of a lot of these other teams, and I think he might have the lower statistics. Not that this is the end all or anything like that. I think if we scroll down here, he actually has some experience with naval combat, a lot with submarines, so certainly potent and dangerous, lots of experience building a bunch of units, and he's got a good amount of wins as is. So I think the weak link in the alliance is Great Britain. He's in a precarious position, and we should have an opportunity to exploit this. If we don't have any opportunities and he plays good defense, then hey, we'll just keep him contained and we'll help out France. Unfortunately, looking at the front here in the south, I mean, Italy is not going to have a big front line, so they're going to have large troop concentrations here in their north. Austria is in a little bit of a weird positioning, having both a border with Italy and then a long border with Turkey. Russia is also going to be able to move a lot of the forces in the south, most likely take out like a country like Romania. And so just looking at the front here, we will see a 2v1 type of scenario. If Morocco comes in and reinforces, this kind of becomes a 2v2 scenario, but not exactly. But it won't entirely be a 2v2 either, because you have Austria with this split positioning. So I think our team will have an advantage here in the south. We'll have an advantage, an immediate advantage here when it comes to Great Britain and Germany. I think a better concentration of forces in Austria. It just depends on what Sweden does. I think Sweden, this may take a little bit longer to complete. He's much further away from the front lines, as is Russia. So it may just take them a little while before they can really pose a challenge. If Morocco is able to get a lot of his forces in over here in the south by that 2-day mark, maybe at that point they can be the ones on the offensive, making some plays here in the east. If you've got any questions, maybe something I missed, strategy, something I overlooked, let's even point out the market. I think I forgot to go through the market. Not that there's a lot of resources available in the market. Actually, real quick, here's the market. It's pretty expensive. You can get maybe some energy. We do have a few trades out there, so maybe we'll get lucky with some of the neutral AIs making some of these purchases. But that's the market. We went over the markets. If you enjoyed this match, please do leave a like, subscribe, comment. And if there's anything else you'd like me to cover in these types of series, please do let me know. And with that, we'll see you all on the next one.